typically spend a full day. I can do this introduction, and basically with audience interaction, it usually takes us a day to cover just this one webinar. Obviously, we're going to do it in an hour, so I'm not going into as much depth. Subsequent sessions, what we're going to do with the help of TAD and CPE Think is we want to make sure we're going into a little bit more detail. Again, each one of the 8 pillars could in itself be a full day seminar or webinar. Again, we'll try to break it down a little. So let's talk about some specific examples, things you can do. And my personal bias in terms of growth is growing through operational efficiency and by expanding your service offerings. So one of the things I'm going to ask, this is probably unusual, but as a presenter, I like to present things that my audience deeply cares about. So what I'm going to do, and we'll work out logistics with TAD, but I'd like people to share in the comments or in the feedback, what are the areas, as we go through the 8 pillars, which of the pillars would you like to learn more about? Which of the tools, if I've mentioned something you're interested in, let us know so that we can cover those in greater detail and perhaps give them a presentation of their own. Now, for the record, I'm a consultant and advisor. I primarily work with bookkeepers and accountants. I have worked with accounting firms across North America, so just because I'm Canadian, the language of the cloud is very common. There's very little difference between the two, other than in the US there's a lot more variety of services than what we have in Canada. So what I do is I only talk about products and services that I have in some way personally touched, dealt with, explored, reviewed. So nothing makes it into this presentation unless I've actually personally used it, whether that's for my accounting firm of the past or the clients that I'm working with at the moment. I should also mention that everything that we talk about, if you call me and ask me what's the best something, my answer is always it depends. I won't give an answer, it's like tax planning or estate planning. You won't give an answer until you've asked some very specific questions. So the right answer, what's the best something, it depends on your unique circumstances. So I would suggest looking at these materials as a starting point and then moving forward from there. So before we get into it, today is about working on, not in your business. I will comment that this title, this is not mine specifically. I first recall reading about it in Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth Revisited. If you haven't read it, he's got one specifically for accountants. I personally believe that the E-Myth, or the series, is a must-read for anyone in business. So when I worked with clients, members of the general public, I asked them, required that they read E-Myth Revisited. When I work with bookkeepers and accountants, I ask that they read E-Myth for Accountants. Basically, he puts a lot of emphasis on the importance of systems and processes, working on your business, not in it. So some of the examples, just up front, because this is kind of what we're going to be talking about, working on your business, it's the non-chargeable, non-billable stuff that we all generally put off. Working in your business is the day-to-day stuff where you get paid to do it. And again, unfortunately, I would argue working on your business probably generates 10, 20 times the results working in your business will, but it's one of those, working on your business is a long-term thing, so we don't see immediate results, therefore human nature, we put it off. So some of the things you should be doing right now to make sure your firm is growing is look at a marketing plan. Have specific goals. Who do you want to reach? How do you want to reach them? Take some time to develop systems and processes. Choose the right tools to facilitate your growth. And my personal bias is creating new services to offer to existing customers. It's a lot cheaper and easier to build on the current relationships you have than it is to go out and find new clients continuously. And again, that is a little bit of a niche. We're accountants, we have special skills. A lot of times we're guilty. I've been there, I've done that. We're guilty of giving our best services away because we don't see that there's value in it. For example, we might have a little cash flow conversation with a client, 15 minutes on the phone, we hang up, think nothing of it. The client, meanwhile, turns around, implements that change in their business, and they think we're brilliant, but we've forgotten and we haven't billed them for either the time or the outcome. Strategic thinking, this should be internal, focused on where your company is going. It can also include spending time working with clients on their strategic thinking. And believe it or not, as accountants, we still need to have business advisors to help us with our business. So before we get into the 8 pillars, it's coming, I promise, I do want to take a moment to define growth. And okay, so the only way is to increase production, and that's by adding more hours to our day or by adding more staff. Again, not a bad thing, but there's obvious constraints. If your office space is at capacity, how do you add another body without, putting them in the file room? My personal bias when it comes to growth is focusing on efficiency and effectiveness and offering new services. So efficiency, just a little side note, I view efficiency as the simple act of doing something very well. You'll note that there's no distinction of what the something is, it's more about doing it well. So you've eliminated waste, you've figured out a really great process so that you can handle something quickly, easily, etc. Effectiveness, on the other hand, I think is far more important. And effectiveness, in my opinion, is doing the right thing. So you've actually given some thought to what the something is. And so, for example, effectiveness in an accounting firm, if you get paid to prepare a tax return, and on the other hand, you've got some casual conversations with your staff that you need to have, effectiveness in April in tax season, effectiveness would dictate that you focus on the tax returns, not the conversations. So combined, if you find first what's most effective, what you need to do to be effective, and then you make those parts of your practice efficient, you can grow dramatically without actually spending extra time and energy in the firm. It's sort of the Pareto principle of focusing 80% of your efforts on 20% of the results, or sorry, 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. So focus on those things that bring you the most results. And again, one of the 8 pillars is value-added services, so we'll talk about that down the road. So here we are, we're finally at the 8 pillars, and operational efficiency, I'll admit up front, probably gets a little bit more coverage in this introductory webinar than most. And the reason for that is operational efficiency, to me, is the key to success with the other pillars. If your operations are efficient, you've got things streamlined, you can handle unlimited growth. It's scalable, it's efficient, there's room to grow. If you're not very operationally efficient, I promise you, don't look at the other 7 pillars because they will crush you. I've worked with accounting firms time and time again. They want to focus on new clients or something else. They jump into that area, and effectively they're really just leveraging their own efficiencies, and you do not want leverage when it comes to inefficiency. I've divided out marketing and networking from sales. We'll talk about that. Niche development is an area I think a lot of accountants can learn a lot from. Value pricing, hot topic. I know Ronald Baker's been talking about it for years. I personally don't see a way forward in our profession unless we start to look more and more at value pricing. And the reason for that is actually Pillar 6 technology.